So you are here because you are a first-time home buyer and you are looking to do something here in the year of 2024 in the Rochester, Minnesota area. In this video, I'm going to be covering how to make a property purchase affordable, some of the low down payment programs, even some assistance programs that I think people need to know about, where you can shop online, and then some of the ins and outs on negotiations so that as you get prepared to do this, you are in a much better shape and ahead and shoulders above the competition. Unfortunately, they don't teach people how to buy a house in school. A lot of the online information is just not helpful, just not location specific, and there's just frankly just a lot of misinformation online. In fact, most agents really can't explain these things in an easy to understand way. You have to understand that 3% of agents are doing roughly 45% of the business in most markets. And in my experience, that seems to track here in the city of Rochester as well. Even the agents who are doing real estate on a consistent basis, I don't think that they are intentional enough to explain these things in an easy to understand way so that you as a consumer can go out there and make good decisions. If you don't know how to do these things, you can make mistakes in the transaction. It could cost you tens of thousands of dollars. You could potentially end up missing out on a house that was exactly what it is what you were looking for. My whole business strategy is intentional about making sure that you have clarity about how all of these things fit together. My name is Alex Mayer. I'm an associate broker over at eXp Realty here in the city of Rochester. I'm winner of Best Real Estate Agent for the year of 2022 through Post Bulletin and Rochester City Awards in 2023. I'd say that not to brag, just so that you know that I know what it is I am talking about. I am a reputable real estate agent here in the city of Rochester, and I want to make sure that people understand that I am someone who you can trust in this process. I encourage my clients to go online, look at my reviews. I have over 185 star reviews online right now. I still show up to work every day with a smile on my face. And if you are looking to make a smooth move here in the Rochester, Minnesota area, message me, call me. I do answer the phone. And if I don't, I'll call you back right away. I love teaching all of these things. So let's dive in. So the first thing I like to cover with any first-time home buyer is how it is that we can make a home purchase affordable to you as a consumer. There's a lot of misinformation out there as far as what people need for a down payment, what makes up a mortgage payment. And my first goal with my clients is to make sure they understand how all those pieces fit together so they know exactly what it is they are getting into. You don't want to be out there looking at houses just to find out that you're going to need an extra $20,000, $30,000 to purchase a house, or that your payment's going to be $400 and $600 more than what you can actually afford. So this is a deep conversation I have with my clients. There are really two key numbers that I want all of my clients to really focus on, and that is going to be your out-of-pocket expenses and your monthly payment. So your out-of-pocket expenses are going to be a combination of your down payment and your closing costs. Now, when I talk about closing costs, if that's a little in the weeds for you at this point, I can cover that in another video, or just feel free to reach out to me directly and I'll have a deeper conversation with you about that as well. But in my experience, many first-time home buyers seem to think that they have to have 20% down in order to purchase a home. Well, I'm here to tell you that the most common down payment that I see for a first-time home buyer is usually between 3 and 5% down. And there are actually a few other low down payment programs that I think other consumers need to know about, and many clients just aren't, or many agents aren't familiar with to explain to their clients. I'm telling you, they are very real programs. One of my favorites is the Minnesota Housing Loan, which is an interest-free loan that you can get from the state of Minnesota. Currently, it's $16,500. They seem to be increasing that every single year. I'm recording this the first week of January, so there's a good chance it actually might have increased by this point. But I want to make sure that people understand that this program does exist. I've had many clients over the years who have utilized this program and purchased a house for only $1,000 out of pocket. And actually, it will actually make your offer much more competitive, but that's a little bit into the weeds at this point. I always do like to tell people that different banks will offer different terms, rates, and costs. So just because you do not get qualified at one bank does not mean that another bank won't qualify you for that loan for what it is that you are looking for. I usually will tell clients there's really 6 different types of financing and variations within each of those. And I want my clients to understand really how you pair up in the competition when you're out there looking at houses, because in today's market, you are more likely to be competing with other buyers than you are to be competing with the seller. I've been paying attention to the Rochester real estate market very intentionally for the last 8 years. And I can tell you that the start of 2024 is definitely going to be a competitive year. I'm already seeing it here just in the first week of January, and from what I've seen get teed up over the last few months as interest rates have dropped significantly from that 8 to that 6%. But I always want people to understand that just because you don't qualify at one bank doesn't mean you won't get qualified at another. I also want my clients to focus on the second element, which is the monthly payment. You can have the same payment on a $350,000 house as you do on a $300,000 house. It's just going to depend on certain things like taxes, insurance, and mortgage insurance, and really what type of financing it is you're using as well. How is that interest rate ultimately going to affect what it is that you are looking for? The very first thing I tell my clients that they should do before we even go out and we start looking at houses is get a pre-approval letter. This is the letter that we give to the seller or the listing agent representing the seller to show the seller that you actually have financial ability to purchase that house. It is important that you get this in advance. If you are a seller selling your house in today's market, you want to know that the buyers who are coming through your property are actually qualified for the purchase of that property. When I schedule a showing with a listing agent at another brokerage and I bring my client through that property, they know my clients are pre-approved because I've made sure that we check this box right away so that when we find that perfect house for you, you're able to get exactly what it is you are looking for. Real briefly, a pre-approval letter is just a one-page document from a bank that states that you are qualified for the purchase of real estate. They'll give you amount, the type of financing, and some of the key terms that we need to make sure that we are going through when we were out there looking at those properties. And there are three key things that banks are actually looking for when they are issuing you a pre-approval letter. The first one is going to be your income. They want to know that you have steady and reliable income. There are some variations and some asterisks. I always want to have a deeper conversation with my clients, especially if you're someone who works a lot of overtime. Maybe you're a 1099 contractor or you have a second job. There are some deeper conversations I want to have with people about how those things will affect your income. And what they're really looking at is your total debt to income ratio. So most people think of this as your income. Most people have some level of debt already. And most banks, depending on the financing, are only going to allow you to have anywhere between 40 and 51% debt to income ratio, right? So if you already have 13% debt obligations this month, they might only allow you to have another 37% debt to go into your mortgage. That means covering your interest, your principal, the taxes, insurance, mortgage insurance, all of these things which will affect what your monthly payment is when you are out there looking at houses. So the second thing they're going to be looking at is going to be your assets. They want to know that you have the money for the down payment and the closing costs, or that you qualify for something such as the Minnesota housing loan, which I was talking about earlier. That shows that you are actually able to qualify for that down payment assistance to help you purchase that next property. I also have a deeper conversation with clients who are using other government-funded programs. We call these things reserves. The banks want to know that you have actually had this money for a period of time. They want to know where it is you got that money. They want to know that these are actually going to be something that you are actually going to have access to. This is one of the main reasons why I tell my clients, if I had it my way, you would be talking to a loan officer months in advance of actually starting your home search so that we can actually make sure that there might be actually something that we can do today that's actually going to set you up to be even more successful down the road. The third thing they're going to be looking at is your credit history. They want to know that you have consistency and experience in making payments and paying your bills on time. I usually will encourage my clients, you want to have some form of rotating credit and some sort of fixed credit. Rotating credit would be revolving credit, would be something like a credit card. Fixed credit would be something like a mortgage payment, for example, or a car payment, or I know there are some vacuums that you can purchase and make installment payments. I've seen people do that in the past. But it is important that you have some sort of history making payments on time. Whenever I talk to someone who's like, oh, I should be fine getting qualified for mortgage because I don't have any debt. Well, that's not necessarily good either. We want to be able to show that you have a history of making those payments on time. And if that is a situation that you're in right now, it's not the end of the world. I have had clients in a matter of 3 to 4 months with guidance who we've been able to get to a point where they actually do qualify for a loan after helping them figure out what it is we can do to help them improve their credit. I always want my clients to understand there is also a difference between working with an independent bank and working with a mortgage broker. So just real briefly what that is. A bank would be like US Bank, Think Bank, First Alliance. These are credit unions. Mayo Employee Federal Credit Union, right? I personally bank at Mayo Employee Federal Credit Union, but I don't get my mortgages from them personally, right? Different banks are going to have different rates, terms, and costs. If you go to an independent bank, they're going to be kind of blanket for every consumer in that area. You go to a mortgage broker works with a variety of different banks. So what they're going to do is they're going to pull your income, your assets, your credit history one time, and they're going to shop around to a multitude of different banks, probably pick the best 2 or 3, get them to compete for your business, which will ultimately result in you getting better rates, better terms, and better costs overall. There is no reason for me to negotiate an amazing purchase price for you on a home purchase only for you to turn around and overpay on the mortgage. So if you are looking to do something here in Rochester, I always tell people to talk to me first. Tell me a little bit about your situation. I can usually make some recommendations on what it is that we can do, or have you talk to a specific bank specifically. If you are a member of a credit union, I usually will have a contact within that credit union here in Rochester where I can actually have you talk to that person specifically. It is important that we make sure that we are working with a loan officer who is credible, so that when we are out there making offers on properties, your offer is going to stand up out against the competition. Next, where should you actually be searching for homes online? Now, I know that the internet is easily accessible. It's easy to just go on and Google and look on Zillow or Realtor or Redfin at properties that look like they're for sale here in the city of Rochester. And I want to be very clear on that, look like it, because in many markets, they can be anywhere between a week to 2 weeks outdated. And there's a very good chance that you can be missing out on 30% of properties that are available out there. And I just want to make sure that you have accurate information that's actually updated in real time. I actually set my clients up with 2 different systems actually tied directly to our local multiple listing service, which is the same system that we as real estate professionals use to list properties for sale when we're actually out there. Same tool that I use when I'm actually out there scheduling showings for my clients as well. And on that point, I also want to give a few things just with home showings. First off, I would much rather that you show up late to a showing than show up early. If you show up early to a showing, there's a good chance we could walk into or run into the seller who's at that property, or we could run into another agent and their client, which can make the home tour awkward. Now, there are definitely situations here in the city of Rochester, and as it continues to get more competitive, like I think it will here in our spring market, that we will probably be seeing a lot of overlapping showings where there are multiple agents there with their other clients looking at those properties as well. And I just want to make sure that people are aware that we don't want to be having conversations with these people. And I also want to make that clear to people too. Make sure that the agent that you are working with represents you. Minnesota state law requires that you have a written contract for representation. If you don't have a written contract with that agent, they do not represent you. Right? You do not want to contact the agent who's got their name on the for sale sign. Oftentimes, the agent who's hosting the open house is also with that listing brokerage, that listing agent's brokerage, which means they represent the seller. They do not represent you. For that, you need to have a written contract for representation. Do not make the mistake of just booking a showing online with a random agent. An experienced real estate professional is not going to drop everything to go show just an agent who calls them online, or a client who, a prospect, I should say, who calls them online to go look at properties. I always tell my clients, you need to understand your consumer rights. There are buyer's agents, listing agents, dual agency, facilitators, how these things affect you and why you need to be careful about what you're sharing with those people when you're out there looking at properties. Typically, when my clients find houses that they like, I encourage them to find 3 or 4 different properties that they like at the same time. Screenshot them, include the address. Don't just send me a picture of a house, and then text them over to me. And then we go out and we try to knock out those 3 to 4 showings in an hour or 2. So we have a good opportunity to compare and contrast. In my opinion, you have to see a variety of houses to really know what it is you like. I can't tell you how many times in my career I had a client who waited until they found the perfect house. They got there, they looked at it, they fell in love with the house, and they tell me, it's the first house I've seen. I'm like, well, then we should probably go look at a few more, right? And if they don't, then all I hear for the next 2-3 weeks is, gosh, we feel bad that we waited so long and we didn't make an offer on that property because it sold. Do not let that be a situation that you get caught into. In my experience, it's better for you to get your feet wet, see what houses look like in your price range so that we can actually get out there and look what it is we are looking for. Another key point with showings as well, be very careful what you're saying inside the house. There are recording devices literally everywhere right now. There are Ring doorbells, Alexa devices. There are, my Alexa device is going off in the background. There are security cameras, baby monitors. Sellers are watching these things. I know they are because they tell me they are. I can't. There's been so many situations where I've represented a seller and they tell me they listened in on a conversation a buyer was having out there. I do not like this person. I actually encourage my sellers to try to take the cameras down when they are actually getting ready to sell a house, because I think it feels a little awkward when you're a buyer walking through a house and that's what's happening. But it is actually completely legal for a seller to do it. It's their home, right? They have valuables there and they want to make sure that nothing shady is going on. Finally, one really cool thing that I think any first-time home buyer needs to know about is that when you purchase a home, for example, we're in January as I'm recording this right now. So there's a good chance if you are financing that purchase that you're probably not going to be closing until early March. Well, if your closing is in early March, your first payment's not in April, it's actually in May. So you actually skip the month after you close when you purchase a home. This is actually a really cool thing for a lot of my first-time home buyers who are used to paying security deposit, first month's rent, and then rent is due the next month. And if you use or you purchase a property in conjunction with that Minnesota housing loan that I was talking about earlier, there's a good chance you might actually be able to purchase a house with only $1,000 out of pocket. It's a very real program. I see clients who are utilizing that program nearly every single month. It is very real, and it is a great way for you to get into a property. So again, this is Alex Mayer. I want you to know that I am available to you. If this is something that you are looking to do here in the city of Rochester, I work with my clients myself. I'm not a big team leader who's going to pass you off to another agent. You will actually work with me directly. All of my clients get a 60 to 90 minute overview on exactly what it is that they need to expect, how to operate, and what needs to be done in order to win here in the Rochester area. In that consult, I make sure that you understand the different types of financing, not again just so that you understand what you qualify for, but so that you also understand how you are competing with the competition. Because again, my expectation for 2024 is it's going to be very competitive. It's important for you to understand how your financing pairs up against that competition. Then I'll break down what goes into a mortgage payment, because I want you to understand what you can expect when we're out there looking at what I'm looking at when we're out there looking at houses to make sure that we can make this affordable for you, how to actually shop for homes online, and then how to actually make a competitive offer that actually gets accepted. Many agents throw around the word that they are negotiation experts. And well, in my experience, there's really not much going or backing that up. I have multiple awards, credentials, and I have years of experience negotiating real estate transactions every single day here in the city of Rochester. So I can give you everything it is you need to know and what it is that we can do to be successful. I've had situations in the past where agents have chosen to work with me and my clients just because they've had experience in working with me and they know that my clients know what it is that they are getting into. But my goal is so you understand everything you got to do from the moment that we meet to when we actually get to the closing table and I'm handing you your set of keys. I know that this is a lot of information, and real estate in general is a lot of information, but in my experience, once you see how all of the pieces of the puzzle really fit together, it creates a complete picture and it makes it much easier for you to make decisions, and it will put you head and shoulders above the competition. So if you are looking to make a smooth move here in the Rochester, Minnesota area, message me or call me. I do answer, and if I don't, I will call you back right away. But I can virtually guarantee you that just a 10-minute conversation with me will put you head and shoulders above the competition. And I certainly do love teaching these things. So I certainly hope to be hearing from you down the road. Cheers.